Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. I am Jordan Wiegand, and with me today is a man that almost didn't make the cut for the podcast today. It's Logan Stump.
Yeah, I was actually pretty worried. I mean, Jordan's been here a while, and he's been
There's
around
so
the
many better options,
podcast, and
but
there's good options, and he's just been around, and I had to choose him. I mean, so yeah, I don't know, Jordan, who would have replaced me though. Like, it's not like you have somebody waiting in the wings for you.
No, it would have been just me, I guess.
I was gonna say, who's gonna jump on with you?
Yeah,
I guess Rich could, like, if you needed a backup. So if you really
yeah.
needed somebody that watches it, like, I think Rich
If
watches
it was
US.
about the
so,
roster, it would have just been me, I guess. I would have been
right.
like,
Call Jack. Hey, Jack, help.
yeah. Well, yeah, we're talking the 2022 World Cup roster selection for the World Cup. So for the US men's national team. So we are excited to be able to talk about this. ESPN did like a whole hour show about it. They released them like every 5 minutes. They'd be like, oh, here's the goalkeepers, and then here's the defenders, and then commercial break. Here we're back with the midfielders, and kind of do like this nice little video of almost as if they're getting drafted. Like that's what it reminded me of. It was like like a draft, or like from Northern Michigan, and it's like a video of them being like, yeah. But yeah, so that is how they unveiled it. Then they had an interview with Greg afterwards. They had an interview with Weston McKennie afterwards. And then that kind of was it. And that's kind of all she wrote when it comes to that. So we're going to talk about it. There are some shocks, some surprises, some stuff that was reported out. When was the Stefan stuff reported? Yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah. Last night? Yeah.
Or late Monday? It was yesterday, right?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday. But it was a lot of interesting. When we heard that, I think we were all kind of blown away at that point, right? Like we were like, okay, I don't know. Like that's what my thought was. If this is true, that Stefan's not going to make the team, then buckle up for tomorrow, or for today, because it is going to be everything's changed. We were just talking about like a month ago that, oh my God, we think Greg might start Stefan at the World Cup over Matt Turner because he's in love with Stefan. He's had him his whole career. And that's not what happened. So he's not going at all. So he can't start him. So that is something that I'm finding very interesting with this. So we'll start with the goalkeepers. Ethan Horvath, Sean Johnson, and Matt Turner. I was kind of I was like, I would probably take Stefan over Horvath right now, but I'm also fine with not, I guess, at this point. Stefan hasn't really been playing that well. He's been getting better recently, but maybe it was too late to make the squad in Greg's mind at that point. It's just kind of a shocker with his history with them through Columbus and everything, that is something that that we're not going to see Stefan at the World Cup. So I feel sorry for Zach Steffen, who probably thought he was. I mean, he had to think he was a lock at some point, right? I mean, he was in every camp.
I think right? He thought he was the number one. I'm so confused.
Yeah.
I think he's probably dazed and confused. I mean, unless something else happened behind the scenes, which you never really know. And I'm glad that it doesn't get out. But I mean, maybe there's a conversation that he and Greg have, and they have a disagreement on just, his position and role on the team. And maybe that, maybe just the fact that maybe it was a conversation of like, hey, Matt Turner might actually be the number one, Zach. And Zach said, to hell with this. I don't want to be there. I don't know. You'd hate to think like that for a guy. You never know, because it's just.
I doubt that would actually. I don't think any player is going to be like, I don't want to go to the World Cup, because you think like, okay, I'm an injury away from being the number one. If that's
that's true. But I mean, it could be a situation where Greg, if it was not a good conversation, where Greg's like, you know what, there's other guys out here that probably deserve it more anyway. So.
Yeah, it could have been a John Brooks type situation. We don't really know what happened there. So that is your goalkeeper. Sean Johnson, I'm happy for him to be able to make it. I think he's probably the number two. I would say at this rate. Let's not forget the game Horvath had at the Nations League final. He played pretty well when he came in for Steph. Matt Turner's been dealing with a little bit of injury, but he made the bench today. This was Berhalter on excluding Stefan. It's more about who we do have and the comfort level we have with the guys on the roster. That's it.
My confusion here is, and I pulled up an article from 2021, end of 2021, where it said Zach Steffen is our keeper, and he's got better feet, he's got more strength, he's just better on the ball, distributing the ball than anybody that we have on the roster and in camp. So, like, I get it, he's not in form, but, like, man, a lot has changed. If you go back, I mean, just how much Berhalter has I guess given out about Zach, how much he loves Zach Steffen. Go back. There's Columbus Crew videos. If you just Google Greg Berhalter and Zach Steffen, like, you can pull up the archives of him speaking so highly on Zach and how great of a keeper he is. One of the best keepers he's worked with. It would be interesting to see, like, and you're right, Jordan. Like, what that quote means to me is that the decision that was made, and it probably did upset Zach, obviously, but it probably was like, something's there. Something's deeper than just the fact that he's just being left off the squad.
Yeah, maybe.
It's very interesting.
What? That's that right there. Our first player that has a Panini sticker that's not making the.
Unbelievable! Right? I got to take back all my Panini stickers.
We had Defenders next. Is how they were unveiled, and it was Cameron Carter-Vickers, Sergino Dest, Aaron Long, Shaq Moore, Tim Ream, Anthony Robinson, Joe Scally, DeAndre Yedlin, Walker Zimmerman. So I would say pretty standard. He Berhalter did say, like, unfortunately Miles and Chris Richards were injured and not able to make it. So I'm starting to think he had those two as locks maybe and had to kind of scramble, and that's why you get a Tim Ream. And that's why you get Aaron Long, or maybe that's why you get Cameron Carter-Vickers. I'm not sure what order he's having these in. Shaq Moore, I guess, is maybe a little surprising. He's been in a lot of the teams, so I feel like that's fine. I can't honestly. I think this defense is as good it was going to get without Chris or Miles making the team. And those are injuries, so I can't even really put that on Greg or anything.
Yeah, I'm looking at this list of defenders, and I mean, a couple good things stand out. You're going to get Tim Ream, who's been really consistent with Fulham and playing really well in Premier League. Like, that's been the whole thing with Fulham. They get up to the Prem, and yeah, it is nuts. Everything is nuts. But you bring up Tim Ream, who has played Fulham up to probably staying this year, which that's not very common for Fulham. They usually go down after a year, spending time jumping between the two. So Tim Ream's been good. But the other things that come out of this, Jordan, is Joe Scally and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Both of them get a lot of experience here. They're younger guys. They're guys that may have been on the fringe had Miles been healthy, had Chris been healthy. So I think there's a lot of that kind of hanging in the balance. And these two get into a roster and get to go to the World Cup, experience what that's like. Because in 2026, man, I could see CCV and Joe Scally both being really crucial parts of this team in that back line. And I think both of them have kind of deserved that spot. I know Joe definitely has and was oftentimes left out of camp. And so many made big deals about it. So now he gets his chance. He's going to learn next to guys like DeAndre Yedlin, who's been there before. And I think it's a good move. Shaq Moore's always impressed me when he's come in. So I don't know. Like you said, Jordan, I think this is absolutely the best that Greg could have done with the selection and pool that he had for defenders.
Yeah, only one of the defenders who have played in a World Cup, and actually the only player in the squad that has played in a World Cup is DeAndre Yedlin. Played at age 20 in 2014, and now coming back 8 years later as one of the most senior members.
Isn't it weird that Pulisic hasn't?
Yeah, I had to look at
it's so wild to me.
I had to look at the 2014 squad because
I had to do the same.
I had to look at it and be like, wait, was Ream in it? Because I couldn't remember.
Right.
No, so this is Ream's first trip as well, unless if he ended up being in like 2010s, but I don't think so. Because I haven't heard anybody mention
I think Yedlin is the only one with experience.
It's crazy because Reem is older, I believe. But that's one of those where he came in due to just how well he's been playing and making the squad. Yeah, he was not on 2010s. I had to look at that. Because he's been a part of this national team for so long, Tim Ream. So it's good for him to be able to finally board the plane and get on there. He's 35 years old. He's got only 46 caps, but he started joining the national team in 2010. So he had two World Cups he could have made, but he unfortunately didn't make um, either of those. So yeah, Tim Ream, well done, well done. Anthony Robinson, that's pretty basic. Yeah, I think, like I said, I think the defenders were as good as they were going to get, and I think when we get into midfielders and forwards is where people are having a much tougher time grasping. So here's the midfielders: Brendan Aronson, Kellen Acosta, Tyler Adams, Luca De La Torre, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, and Christian Roldan. So a lot of people upset about Roldan. Also, what I'm seeing is something I didn't know at this point, but Taylor Twellman mentioned this, that it was the first time that Brendan Aronson's listed as a midfielder on a U.S. men's national team squad. He's usually listed as a forward. So maybe we're going to see him more as a midfielder, though Greg did say a lot of the times why he picks some of these players are due to the multiple positions they play. So the fact that, and he called out Aronson and said the fact that he can play as a midfielder or a winger, the fact that Weah can be on either sub top, not a spoiler alert there, but Weah's on the team, where he's able to. So I don't know if I'd take it too much that he's listed as a midfielder. I think he's just going to kind of stuff him and play him wherever he wants, really. But maybe he'll start as a midfielder and if need be, change.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was sorry, I was just looking at Twitter. Somebody that was also left off in defenders that people were mad about was Reynolds. But
He
I mean,
isn't
to
he
be
like barely
honest,
playing?
well, that's my thing. He's barely playing, and my thing is he and unfortunately Chris are just not healthy. So like, even if they do show up, there's somebody that you're probably going to lose due to. And I know you can't go into a World Cup thinking like that because people are going to get hurt no matter what. But I mean, to be honest with you, Shaq Moore's been playing. I've always thought Shaq Moore's been pretty consistent. Obviously, he's not going to light up the world, but that's not really a shock to me. But again, now switching over the midfielders, yeah, I guess the roll Don thing. Like, who would have been? I'm trying to think of who would have even been a selection in the midfield. Maybe, oh gosh, I couldn't even think of anybody that's not on this list that would be a midfielder. That would be, I mean, Roldan's fine. I don't think he's going to play a ton. I think you're looking at very basic setup in the midfield. If you're going to go 4-3-3, like I think you're looking at, it's going to probably be Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Brendan Aronson, Yunus, Musa, and then you're rotating in De La Torre and Kellen Acosta. I'd imagine Roldan's only there in case somebody gets hurt. So, yeah, I mean, I get that, but that he's Jordan. If I'm looking at the roster correctly, I would say that he, along with maybe Haji Wright, are just there in case something goes awry, where people get hurt. So I don't know. I'm not too shocked about the midfielders. I am shocked that Brendan Aronson's listed as a midfielder. I'm interested to see what that looks like. Obviously, I think he's more comfortable in that kind of position, setting up the guys on the wings. And he comes inside quite a bit, and he likes that midfield area where he's going to be able to control, where he's going to distribute the ball, whether it's going to go down the side for something that's going to come in. And then, his ability to be able to score coming in off of that right foot or onto that right foot, I think is a huge benefit for the U.S. And ultimately, I think that's probably his best position for them, and maybe wherever he does end up besides Leeds. But again, I really like that. But yeah, I'm excited about the midfield because I think the midfield is the make or break for us. The forwards are going to, their forwards are going to forward. I don't think there's a shock there. We're always going to struggle there because we don't have that name yet. But the midfielders, if we're going to play extremely well, it's going to come through the midfield, and I think it hinges on how good Weston can be if he can stay healthy, and how good Yunus Musa could become.
Yeah, to me, there's not a big shock missing. I know a lot of people said Malik Tillman instead of Roldan, but I mean, Tillman didn't play that much with this team,
and he
so I'm
hasn't
not
been
really
great. So
that concerned about it. Forwards: Jesus Vieira, Jordan Morris, Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Josh Sargent, Tim Weah, and the shocker, Haji Wright. So I think most of us thought Jesus Vieira was making the team, and so I have Berhalter's answer about who was up against who. So Haji Wright was up against PFOC, and the fact that Haji Wright had more goals and was in better form currently got on the spot. He's only been in one camp, I think, and it was the summer, and then got dropped for September friendlies. Pepe was in competition with Jesus and Sargent. So Sargent's been playing a lot better. Jesus Vieira had more goals, I guess, this year in MLS and stuff, but he doesn't really look great for the national team. And that's where I would probably have my biggest gripe, is that while Pepe is now starting to play a lot better, Pepe's looked good for the U.S. national team. In fact, he's one of the reasons we qualified, with his goal and like 2 assists he had against Honduras, that game where we won 4-1. So that is something that I'm like, ooh, that I think he may have been the better pick over Jesus Vieira. But Pepe is only 20 years old. He can make 2026. He'll be 24 years old. You know, like he can even make 2030. Like, he's got tons of time to make a team. So I'm not too worried about that. But I know a lot of people are upset about Jordan Morris. I think it's a great story for what he's been through, his injuries. He's going to make it to Qatar, and we'll see. Hopefully he can contribute to the team. But these are 26 players, Logan. And when I saw somebody do this whole tweet thread about competitive teams that make it far in the tournament, only used about 19 players on average in their tournament, 17 to 19 players. Teams that get knocked out earlier ended up using more, like 20, 22 players out of the 23 that they had back then. Well, now we have 26 players, and some of these guys are not going to see the field unless if we blow out every team, or we get blown out by every team. I don't think some of these guys are going to see the field, and I would think maybe somebody like a Jordan Morris or a Roldan are probably not going to play many minutes in Qatar.
Yeah, and you always have it in the back of your mind. I mean, you've got to think also guys' health. I think Greg looks at that and says, comparable, who could we bring in that's going to be compared to in style and the way that they play and how they set up, the attack or the defense. And so you're looking for a like switch sometimes, maybe somebody can kind of fill in a role there. Jordan Morris is fully capable of doing so. If in an emergency case we needed Jordan Morris, he's there. And with Gio Reyna on the roster, and I hope that he stays healthy. I love Gio, and I'm always torn apart by when he's hurt. But, I mean, the guy can barely stay healthy. So that's a big concern. So you have to have somebody that can step in that spot. Like you said, Jordan, I think it is kind of concerning with Pepe. But honestly, if I'm looking at it and I take a step back, while he was crucial in that, was it El Salvador game or Honduras?
Honduras, yeah.
Honduras, yeah. In other games like Canada and I think Mexico too, the lights got a little too bright, I think, for him. And there's times where he just goes, oh, crap. Which I think you also saw when he played in Augsburg. I mean, I know it wasn't a great situation there, but I do think at times, while he did perform in the limelight, as it got further into, I think, qualification, I think his performances actually kind of dwindled. And you kind of went, oh, gosh, because I know in the latter part of the actual qualification, Jesus Ferreira was the starter multiple times. So, and to be fair, I don't even know why we're talking about this because I do think Josh Sargent, this is his job to lose. And Jordan, you and I, like way back, thought, okay, Josh, this is your time. You need to step in. And then when everything went to crap for him, we were just like, man, this poor guy just had so much talent. Everything was riding on him. Those broad shoulders, we thought he could carry it. And then he just faded off the planet Earth. Now he's probably our best number 9 and looking like he actually might be really dangerous to deal with, and playing at a very high level with Norwich. So I think I think that's who we should be talking about. It doesn't really matter. I mean, Jesus is going to come in to spell him, but I do think with what they've got stacked up, Timothy Weah could step into that spot. I thought Haji Wright actually looked pretty decent when he played, but yeah, I think we're talking about.
Well, I just wanted to so for Pepe, Pepe's 3 goals he had for the men's national team were World Cup qualifiers. He scored one for Honduras, and he's one against Honduras, and he scored 2 against Jamaica in World Cup qualifying. So 2 pretty big matches. While Vieira's goals were a friendly against Trinidad and Tobago, he had 2 goals. He had 1 goal against Panama in qualification, and then he had 4 goals against Grenada in the Nations League. So if you're going to say that, my point just being that Vieira hasn't done it on the big stage either. So in that case, I would probably lean more towards Pepe, who's probably playing better opponents right now and starting to get in form, while Vieira hasn't played since Dallas got knocked out, and he looked pretty bad in the playoffs. So I don't know. I'm just kind of worried. I do hope Sargent starts. It sounds he probably will. Greg said he really called him in because he's playing in the championship. He's scoring more, and that the championship is going to be similar type of players that he's working against in England and Wales. So I would assume at least the first 2 games, Sargent is starting, and maybe Vieira would start against a team like Iran or something, or maybe Haji Wright starts against Iran. To give, because you usually want to give a break to some of the players. So I'd assume, depending on how well we are, if we're set up to where we're already through, then yeah, I could see probably Wright or Farah starting against Iran. But if we're at the point where we need a win, maybe you trot out Sargent again. And that's why, like I said, teams that are performing well and need points usually only get around 19 players on the field throughout the whole World Cup, because they got to lean on the people that got them there. They don't have time to rotate the way other teams do. So again, we have 26 names. Not all of them are going to see the field. I mean, he might be able to get all of them on at some point by putting them on for like a minute or 2 and rotating who he's subbing in if everything's going well. But if things are going to the point where we're desperate, you're going to see the same faces come in like every time, I think.
Yeah, and you can also think about like Brendan Aronson's going to be used in multiple positions. I think he's that versatile. Yeah. Christian Pulisic can play left back. I mean, I don't know if you're going to want him there, but he can do it. Tuchel proved it. I guess that was like his big champion thing, wasn't it? It was like, all right, look what I did.
He just played left back today too, actually.
Did he really? Good for him. I mean, it does speak to his versatility. To be honest, he's probably not the worst. He is very athletic. He's got a good defensive mind. It's just not where I would put him. But again, you've got so much versatility here with this U.S. men's national team roster. There's actually times where maybe, Jordan, you and I talked about this, you consider maybe Timothy Weah up front if you really had to, just because I do think Timothy might be one of our best, at least getting the ball on target. When it really comes down to it, I think he was the most impressive that we saw in World Cup qualifying. I am really excited, though, to see Josh back with this team, just because it's been a while. I think that he has tremendous potential. He's strong. He's quick. He's going to defend. He's going to press real high, and that's what the U.S. is going to need. They like that high pressing, take the ball away, and counter with an attack that's, lightning speed. When you got guys that can carry the ball for so long. I mean, you look at Gio Reyna and Christian. I mean, they love the ball at their feet and creating. So it should be good. I'm really excited about the roster. I think, like you said, you probably won't see 3 or 4 of these guys, but unless it's for emergency situations. But yeah, no, I'm excited. Can't believe it's only a couple weeks away.
It's close, man. It's actually 11 days away.
It's insane.
The first game is 12 days for us, but yeah, 11 days away from. Greg said they're gonna have everybody in camp by the 14th, so he'll have a whole week pretty much to prepare for the 21st. So that's pretty good. But yeah, so we're getting really close to the World Cup. So what's next? What is next for us in the World Cup? Well, Monday we're gonna take a look at the rest of the teams. Wales released their roster today. I think most teams have released their roster now. And a lot of our preview is going to be going over the roster decisions of other teams and how many players are missing the World Cup due to injury that are impactful in our group, even when you look at England losing like Reece James and stuff. So we'll take a look at that stuff on Monday. We'll do do we want to do our predictions Monday as well, or just saving that for another time? Or that's really the last one before the World Cup starts, I think. So we might have to make our predictions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, we probably should just do a whole big World Cup episode.
Nice.
Be a lot of fun.
So we'll start our notes of that.
Yeah, that'll be massive. But that'll be fun. And then we can kind of give our predictions of what we think is going to happen. All that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, a lot of players are going to miss the World Cup. It seems like Sadio Mane might. He just got injured last night.
I didn't get called in. I'm kind of shocked, to be honest.
For Senegal or for the U.S.?
Both. Yep, both. I was expecting a call today, and I didn't get one. So.
Yeah, well, it's a shame.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So Roger Gonzalez of CBS, before we get out of here, said Pepe's camp is livid and shocked he isn't on the squad. They thought recent form was more than enough. The Stefan situation, it feels like there's a deeper lying issue. And Roger also said, not surprised Shaq Moore made it. So there you go.
Shaq's been great. I'm not shocked either. But that being said, I mean, who else would have been? I mean, Reynolds would have been the other choice, and he hasn't impressed me. So
some of these people are crazy.
Chris Richards.
All right. But yeah. So, anything else before we get out of here? Nice short episode today, just talking about roster.
No, I guess leave in the comments or whatever if you're watching this back. Who are you shocked about? Who did you like?
Who was the shocker getting left off?
Oh, I got a question for you, Jordan.
There's no Landon Donovan level one this time. That's good.
Yeah. No, I got a question for you. If you look at that roster one more time, who on there are you picking out to be the most shocking, or I guess not the most shocking, the one that's going to surprise us all?
Well, Alfredo, we actually talked about Haji a little bit earlier ago. I was a little shocked Haji got caught, but when you look at his numbers, and he's scored like 9 goals already this season, and I think 14 last year, and I think in the stretch of 2022 as a whole, he's got like 20 some goals. So I would take him over PFOC, who hasn't scored since September 18th. It does suck a little bit that he hasn't gotten much camp experience. But it kind of sucks that we have this short window right now of when it's going to start. We don't have like a full summer build up like we usually do, or a few weeks where they're able to do friendlies. So it'll be interesting. I don't think he's going to start much. I think maybe he's actually probably going to be the third option off the bench. So I'm not too worried about Haji making it. So congrats to Haji Wright, though. I guess Pulisic is a friend of his too, and I don't know, maybe he pulled some weight. I don't know. But Logan, you asked me who I thought was going to be the most, like, the one that's going to like light the world on fire.
Yeah,
out of any of the players, or
maybe just like somebody that is on the roster that not many people are thinking about is going to make a difference and will make a difference.
Oh boy, who's going to make a difference that people maybe don't think is going to make a difference? That stuff. I'm going to say was gonna go with Sean Johnson, but you would hope that you don't have to rely on a second or third goalkeeper in a tournament. But our goalkeepers have not been notoriously healthy since Tim Howard, really. So maybe I'll go with that. Alfredo says Musa. That's a good call. I mean,
Yeah.
he's kind of the heartbeat. I think if I can answer it a different way, Logan, we
Yeah.
know Leeds United fans love Adams a lot.
Right.
They have a song about him now, and they love Aronson too. But I
Right.
think the world is going to see why they love Adams so much. I think this is going to be a party on the world stage. Leeds has kind of been loving him. I still think he's very underrated in the Premier League as a whole, where people don't really talk about him. So I think this is something that could kind of set that. We know he's been linked to United, I think, as well. One of these players is going to play very well and make a huge move in January or the summer, I think. So my money would be on Tyler Adams. I think I think the whole world's going to finally see what Red Bulls fans have seen and what Leeds fans have seen. So I'm going to go with Tyler Adams. What's your answer?
Musa, good shout. I was leaning towards Musa too, but I think ultimately, and it's somebody that's fallen off the map. I talked about it before. I think Josh Sargent. I just think everything seems to be working into his favor. Here's this kid that not many people thought was going to be the answer at the number 9. Hell, we went through about 6 of them now, 7 of them now that we thought were going to be number 9s. DK, we went through Fiera. We've gone through the Timothy Way up top experiment. We've gone through Haji Wright. I remember Brandon Vasquez being thrown out there as an option, possibly. We were just getting desperate, I think, of just let's find somebody. And there it is, Jordan. We started the very beginning thinking Josh Sargent needs to be the guy. Completely fell out of favor with Greg, and now he's back and probably going to be the starting number 9. I think it's got a good story. I think he's going to be one of the best surprises as far as World Cup. But Jordan, I think you're right. I think if we're looking at this as a whole, this is the time when I think the world realizes how good Tyler Adams is.
So we have a comment here. CBs worry me a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't even know. We kind of talked about it earlier, but I just don't even know where we would go from here other than that. It sucks Chris Richards injured, and it sucks Miles Robinson is injured. I think both of them come in and they probably start as a pair, or Richards paired with Zimmerman with Miles as the backup option. Aaron Long is, of course, the one that worries most people, but I think people would have asked for Cameron Carter-Vickers anyway, so he's on the squad. And who else am I blanking on right now?
The only other one that people shout is John Anthony Brooks, but that thing got sewn up long ago. That relationship is beyond repairable, I think. So, from what we gathered.
But the other center back currently on there is where am I blanking it? Oh, Tim Ream, and I think that he's been playing pretty well.
He could start
Fulham right now, and what I do like is that Greg did take people based off form for some of these, right?
Yes.
I mean, obviously
for the first time in a long time.
Obviously not all of them, but Haji Wright getting in for how many goals he scored, Tim Ream playing well. I seriously thought both of those would not make it, and I thought that Zach Steffen was going to make it anyway. He hasn't been playing well, and Greg left him off. So it's a little bit of a different roster for Greg than we're used to, actually, which is kind of mind-blowing in that sense. But yeah, some of these players are not going to see the field. We've said that before, but I totally think somebody like Tim Ream getting the call in there, he might come in as a third center back if we have to defend a lead or something. But Cameron Carter-Vickers probably not actually going to play, I would think. And Yedlin, I would think, probably not going to play unless if they need something in the right back spot. I don't know. I'm actually worried Scally's probably not going to play. Some of these players is just going to be an experience thing that then in 2026, they're going to get a chance to really make it. But all these players, I was listening to the Kova to Qatar, athletic podcast, and all these players are thinking getting out of the group is like priority one. That's like bare minimum.
Yeah.
So I like that they have that mindset, and I think this squad can do it. We're gonna have to see how they actually play. That this is a team that is full of talent, but sometimes that talent doesn't shine, and that is what I'm kind of worried about. But I'm just happy to be back here. It's been 8 years since we've been in a World Cup. I'm pumped up. I never thought, it was a little tough getting here. Right, the first two games we had like 1 point or 2 points out of the first two games or something. I don't know. We didn't. It didn't look good early in qualification. I remember us coming on here and like calling for Greg's head at that point if he didn't get something in that third game or something. But we're here. We're 11 days away, Logan, from kickoff of the World Cup, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah. And like you said, there
Like, I
was
don't think there's
no
a name. Sorry,
seismic loss. Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's a name that you put on this roster that makes me more excited than I am now. So, I'll just say that much.
Yeah. No, 100% agree. So, I just wanted to start tomorrow. I'm just so excited, and like I want them to get into camp because I think you're going to start to hear Greg talk about.
Oh, you're
All
gonna
right,
hear
here's what it
stuff.
looks like.
Yeah.
Like here's what it's looking like. You're going to have the writers being able to watch trainings and practices and going, all right, so far, like, and that's what
I don't know if
Chris.
they will. Are they allowed to?
I think they said. I think that a couple days before, I think they're allowed like
Okay.
to actually go in and ask. Like the press will get a hold of Greg and be like, hey, what's it starting to look like? What is an actual starting 11 starting to look like? But it'll be interesting. I'm really excited to kind of see what Greg has up his sleeves, and hopefully, I hope he sticks to kind of what he's sticking to here. He goes with guys that are going to win us games and are in form, and not try to throw in a Fiera, after he hasn't scored a goal or so, throw him in all three games and then getting bounced out of the group stages. The group stages. But yeah, I think like you said, without ruining it, this team needs to make it out of the group. I think that's the goal.
All right. Well, if you want to follow us on all of our other platforms that you're not watching us on currently, we are at Stateside Show on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Email us at statesideshow.com. Email us at statesideshow@gmail.com. And we are gearing up. Send us any sort of feedback you have about the roster once we're signed off here. Send us your predictions on how you think these squads are going to go. Logan, we got to try to get, I think ESPN does the bracket still. We're going to have to get a bracket going and have people join our bracket with their predictions
Sounds
for
good.
the World Cup. So we'll have to get that going. 11 days away, everyone. But guess what, Logan? I'm moving on from the MLS Cup loss, and I'm ready to be heartbroken again.
Rip our hearts out. Tear them apart.
Rip it out again, Gareth Bale. I want to see you try.
Oh, don't say that, Jordan. That's the wrong one to target. Let's target like Raheem Sterling or somebody first. Somebody that'll actually choke.
But yes, at Stateside Show for all of that. Thank you all for watching or listening, and have a great rest of your week.